At this point, I believe that it is safe to say that Batman is one of the most important fictional characters in American history. With a lineage now spanning nearly 9 decades, and the character seemingly more popular than ever, Gotham's watchful protector has become far more than just a comic book hero. Batman is a cultural icon whose influence has stretched across comics, television, film, and perhaps most importantly, video games. Because of that, every new Batman project carries a certain weight. Fans don't just want something hastily snapped together. No, they want something carefully constructed. After all of this time, Batman's mythology has become a towering structure built by countless writers, artists, filmmakers, and developers. The challenge for any new Batman project is finding a way to add another level to that structure without weakening the foundation beneath it. That challenge now falls to LEGO Batman: Legacy of the Dark Knight, Traveler's Tales Games' newest attempt at bringing the Caped Crusader into a brick-built world. TT Games' strategy is a blatant acknowledgement of this challenge. Rather than constructing an entirely new floor, the developers examined the architecture of what has come before. And in almost Jenga-like play, TT Games has taken pieces of Batman's most iconic moments and successfully repackaged them on top of the tower. The result is less of a brand new Batman adventure and more of a celebration of what has come before. This philosophy leads to nearly every corner of the character's 87-year history, blending iconic moments, familiar faces, and classic LEGO humor into what may be the most ambitious tribute of Batman's storied history. But does Legacy of the Dark Knight truly earn its place on top of the tower? Or does it take out one brick too many? Let's find out. Earlier, I mentioned this towering structure that is Batman's legacy. A major pillar of that structure, and one most relevant to this review, is the Dark Knight's long-standing presence in the world of video games. First appearing in the early days of licensed adaptations and evolving through decades of increasingly ambitious interpretations, Batman has evolved from the side-scrolling era to some of the most influential action-adventure games ever made. Each entry has added another piece to that character's digital identity, helping define not just how Batman is played, but how he is understood as an interactive experience. Nowhere is this more apparent than in Rocksteady's Arkham franchise. The series' combat, traversal, and detective mechanics would go on to influence countless third-person action games that followed. These weren't merely excellent licensed products, they were landmark releases that helped shape the industry itself. The list of games that mimicked or outright copied Arkham's free-flow combat system is endless. At the same time, TT Games was quietly building its own corner of Batman's gaming legacy. Beginning with LEGO Batman in 2008 and continuing through LEGO Batman 2, DC Superheroes in 2012, and ending with LEGO Batman 3, Beyond Gotham in 2014, the studio delivered a trio of collectathon adventures that translated DC's heroes and villains into a more lighthearted, easygoing adventure. They were competent, charming, and often genuinely fun. But when placed beside the incredible success of the Arkham games, they frequently found themselves living in the other's shadow. Rather than simply creating LEGO Batman 4, TT Games has chosen a different path. Following the blueprint established by their most recent Star Wars title, the Skywalker Saga, the studio has set its sights on something far more ambitious. A game that seeks to commemorate the entirety of Batman's history. Such an approach raises an important question. Does this make for the ultimate celebration of Batman's storied lineage, or is this simply a montage of famous moments that lack the required effort to be fully appreciated? The answer is yes and no. On one hand, Legacy of the Dark Knight is overflowing with reverence for its source material. The game leans heavily on what has come before in its design, with countless references scattered throughout. TT Games' genuine affection for Batman's history is evident in nearly every corner of the experience. On the other hand, a game so concerned with what has come before rarely establishes an identity of its own. Its gameplay borrows heavily from the Arkham series, yet never reaches the same level of depth or refinement. Likewise, its story often feels less like a cohesive narrative and more like a highlight reel of Batman's greatest hits, jumping between iconic moments without always giving them the time or context needed to resonate. At times, the game can feel messy, but that disjointedness is often overwhelmingly outweighed by its clear affection for the character. There is an undeniable sense that this project is built on a deep admiration for Batman. Something that, at the very least, keeps it consistently engaging, even as the game starts to feel repetitive. As someone who also has great affection for the character and all of its different interpretations, playing through the game made me smile big and often. With that said, to really understand what Legacy of the Dark Knight gets right and where it falls short, we need to break it down, brick by brick, starting with its story. As mentioned previously, the game draws inspiration from all parts of Batman's history, but the main focus here is on the character on screen. From Batman 66 to the Burton-Schumacher era to the Dark Knight trilogy and even into the modern interpretations of Batfleck and Pattinson. It's all here. The game tells the tragic story of Bruce Wayne that we all know well, starting at the very beginning with the death of his parents. The game then progresses onward through the many eras of Batman's career, broken down into chapters that each focus on a particular film or two and introduce new playable characters. The story makes no attempt to surprise or try something new, but it constantly showers Batman fans with laugh-out-loud moments that are impossible not to admire. Playing this game turns your living room into a constant Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. While there are no real twists or turns in this story, it was a constant delight when the next familiar character made their introduction. Of course, Batman's history would not be complete without the villains who have challenged him over the many years. Much like the heroes, TT Games embraces the exaggerated nature of these characters, finding humor without losing what makes them memorable. Seeing decades of villains reimagined through LEGO form might be one of the game's greatest strengths, because it understands that Batman's world has always been defined by the colorful personalities standing across from him. While the voice acting could certainly have been stronger, TT Games overall nailed these interpretations of Batman's famous villains. I realized that revisiting all of these characters plays into this is only good because I know what it is kind of entertainment, but I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't love every second of it. The majority of these moments exist within the linear levels, which are what we have come to expect with a traditional LEGO product. They were certainly the highlights of the game for me, and by far the most well-designed. Perfectly paced, cohesive, and incredibly entertaining. More importantly, the levels ultimately serve as the main references, as I mentioned earlier, to Batman's cinematic legacy. Famous locations like the Iceberg Lounge from the Batman or the Art Museum in Batman 89 are recreated here beautifully. I will do my best not to spoil any other location in the game to enhance the viewer's own experience if they decide to play the game for themselves. You're welcome. Between those missions lies Gotham City itself, and this is where a dichotomy begins to emerge. While the handcrafted levels feel deliberate and meticulously designed, the open world often comes across as the lesser of the environments. Traversing Gotham is undeniably enjoyable, and the city itself is visually impressive, but it rarely feels like a living, breathing place. Instead, it functions primarily as the pathway to the next mission, the space between, if you will. Perhaps I'm being a little too critical of the open world playground of a LEGO Gotham, but I always found myself rushing forward to the next main mission rather than wanting to explore the city. I will say, however, that I enjoyed how parts of the city, including the Bat Signal, changed as the game's story progressed. The majority of my time within Gotham came after I had already completed the main story, when I was solving the plethora of Riddler and Cluemaster puzzles and helping Killer Croc escape the hands of the GCPD. While side content was engaging at first, it began to feel redundant pretty quick as I chased that platinum trophy. The third space that would be a sin not to mention is the Batcave itself. This is by far the most complete version of Batman's hideout that we have gotten in video game form. From the beautifully recreated Batcomputer to the chamber housing every unlockable Batsuit, every corner feels worthwhile and crafted with love. More than just a visually impressive hub, the Batcave serves as a tangible reward for the hours spent completing side content throughout Legacy of the Dark Knight. All of the hundreds of collectibles acquired throughout the game can be freely placed in certain locations, allowing players to bring their own personality to the space. Although I personally didn't spend much time customizing it, the feature is substantial enough that dedicated Batman fans will undoubtedly appreciate everything it has to offer. While the environments TT Games has created are, for the most part, excellent, things would begin to feel shaky if the structural framework lacked the same quality. Fortunately, that is not the case. Perhaps the biggest change made in TT Games' latest release is a complete overhaul of how a LEGO game feels to play. They do not simply take inspiration from Rocksteady's Arkham franchise, they borrow heavily from its established systems, bringing over many of the mechanics that define Batman's most celebrated gaming experiences. In most cases, this level of imitation would feel like a lazy or unoriginal decision. However, within the context of Legacy of the Dark Knight, it almost feels intentional. If this game is meant to be a celebration of Batman's entire history, then borrowing from one of the character's most influential video game eras becomes another piece of that larger structure. It is a testament to just how incredible Rocksteady's free-flow combat system was that nearly 17 years later, it can still serve as a foundation for another Batman experience. The Arkham influence doesn't stop at the combat either. Systems like stealth takedowns, grappling, gliding, investigations, and the Batmobile are all here. While none of these portrayals are as complex or refined as their bigger brother, it is still a joy to experience playing Batman this way. I couldn't help but feel the same nostalgia with the gameplay as I felt while witnessing the many story references. And it is not just the big guy that we are allowed to experience. No, like the LEGO games that have come before, we are given an extensive character roster to play as. While it may not be as large in number as we have come to know with previous LEGO projects, the 7-character roster offers us quality rather than quantity. Essentially, each character functions as their own individual puzzle solver. With 2 unique gadgets to boot, playing as Robin, Catwoman, Batgirl, or even James Gordon brings their own individual flavors and purpose. My biggest complaint with these characters is that even though they have their own unique mechanics and animations, they all still, overall, feel the same way to play. I realize that this is still a LEGO game and the characters are designed this way to encourage cooperative play, but watching Gordon fight, grapple, and glide just as smoothly as Batman always felt strange. After witnessing Bruce Wayne train endlessly to master these skills at the intro's League of Shadows area, seeing Gordon pick up a grapple gun and immediately become an expert is hilariously goofy. That being said, watching Gordon throw donuts everywhere during a focus launch never failed to make me laugh. So they kind of do play into it, the inherent goofiness, obviously. As I just quickly mentioned, the developers certainly encourage players to experience this game together. Batman is truly never alone, for once. Throughout the entire experience, Batman and one additional character will be available on screen. This serves the purpose of justifying and encouraging cooperative play, as well as giving players more tools to solve the plethora of puzzles in the game. Each character is also the focus of their respective chapter where they are introduced, serving an additional story function. I normally prefer my Batman to work all by his lonesomeness, but it serves its purpose here. LEGO has always been a way for parents and kids to come together and build something meaningful through collaboration and creativity. This same philosophy translates smoothly over into the video game space, and it makes complete sense when viewed through this lens. Another staple of LEGO, at least in the game sphere, is collecting. Just like with the playable roster, this is streamlined in comparison to the previous titles. There is no overall stud meter as there was in the past. Instead, the currency now serves as a way to unlock the many available cosmetics in the game. You still obtain these in the same way as we've come to know, and that is by destroying everything that comes into your path. Instead of the stud meter, missions now have 5 available collectibles, 5 Wayne Tech caches, as well as 1 hidden red brick. All of these serve as either collectibles or your currency for suit and skill unlocks. Suits may not add any gameplay changes or enhancements, but obtaining them certainly was a motivating factor. I can boldly say that I was not disappointed at all with what was available in the game. Just like the Bat Signal, the Bat family's outfits would change and evolve to fit whatever film was the focus of that respective chapter. In regards to the skill tree, there is nothing revolutionary here. Just your typical unlockable path that provides enhancements to combat and stealth, as well as new focus abilities. Much like the rest of the game, these systems are not trying to reinvent the wheel. They are taking familiar pieces and fitting them into a larger experience. For all of its Arkham influences, it is important to remember that Legacy of the Dark Knight is still a LEGO game. TT Games' greatest strength has never been groundbreaking originality or deep, complex game design. Their talent lies somewhere else, taking identities that have existed for multiple generations and celebrating them in a way that makes them feel new again. Does the story go anywhere I have never seen in a Batman property? No. Does the gameplay reinvent or improve upon the work accomplished by Rocksteady all those years ago? No. Did the game constantly make me smile, laugh, and audibly scream with joy at its hilarious interpretations of Batman's beautifully extensive history? The answer is a resounding yes. And to answer the original question of the video, does Legacy of the Dark Knight contribute to Batman's towering structure, or does it take away one too many bricks? I believe that answer is that it absolutely lives up to its namesake, Legacy. While the foundation is built from the pieces that have come before, the structure is held together by the overwhelmingly love and appreciation for the character. And most importantly, it serves as a reminder of all the builders who have contributed to Batman's existence over nearly 9 decades. Countless people have poured their creativity, passion, and dedication into this character. The Legacy of the Dark Knight serves as the dual purpose of not only providing fans with a celebration of Batman's history, but it's also a heartfelt thank you to everyone who has helped shape him into the icon he is today. Batman works so well as a character because he is a human story created by humans. LEGO works so well because it is something that humans can share together. Combining these two is more of a perfect fit than you would ever even conceive it to be. I loved my time with Legacy of the Dark Knight. And if you're even a casual Batman fan, I'm confident you will too. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you guys on the next one.